When I got out of prison, I knew I was sitting in this incredible mess with a great story, right? But the problem was there weren't a lot of places for me to share that story. And I found out really quickly, you cannot go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to the kids.
No. They're not like, come on in.
Especially in Texas. You talk about it privately. We talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, Dwiggy, along with Mr. Robinson.
Dwiggy.
By the way, we hit the jackpot again.
Yes.
We had best-selling author and international keynote speaker, Damon West.
Yeah.
If they don't know who this guy is, you've been living under a rock.
Coffee bean guy. Yeah, wild. Amazing story from high school phenom athlete to Wall Street to prison to now motivational speaker. Like, you don't want to miss his story. Man, there were so many great takeaways. My notes are long. I'll try to do it quickly, but don't look for balance in life. Look for rhythm. I loved his talk about that. He had amazing perspective on what a bad day is. My guess is being in prison will help you recalibrate that. Find the opportunity in adversity. You don't have to win all your fights, but you've got to fight them. Shocker. I like that one. His lowest moment in prison, which I've heard him speak a couple times and read his book. I had never heard that part of his story. Confidence is keeping promises to yourself, and you just got to get your reps in. Man, this conversation was so good.
We asked like 2 questions,
maybe
and
3,
then
and he just
go.
went. Yeah, it was this.
You'll want to listen to this one.
If you're feeling down, put this in your ear and maybe save this one on your phone so that anytime you're not feeling motivated and expired, motivated and inspired, you can just hit play on this one. It'll help you out. Put it in your ears, kids.
Damon, welcome to the podcast.
Yes.
I can tell you that Keith and I are
excited,
absolutely stoked and excited to have you here. Just for viewers and listeners, so you know, we had the opportunity to have Damon be a keynote speaker at our national conference. He was the highest rated speaker there. Understandably, you're going to get to hear his story. Damon, we're super stoked that you take some time out of your busy schedule to be here. I mean, how many days did you travel last year? I heard you talk about that from stage.
About 300. I'm on the road. I'm on the road 20 to 25 days of every month, guys. And this is the thing. I mean, it's like it's happening. I've become one of the most in-demand speakers in America. And you don't know how long that's going to last, right? So you got to, once you're in that vein, it's just like anything in life. Any business you build, once it's in the vein, you're moving, you got momentum, you got to ride that wave. Because here's the thing about momentum, you don't know when it's going to stop. And you got to ride that wave till it either kicks you off or you're ready to get off. And neither one of those is happening right now. So let's go.
Let's go.
I used to feel sorry about myself with the travel that I do until I heard you say that.
Yeah, you still should.
I was like, nah, never mind.
But it's funny though, and then we'll get to like our questions, but I think there's stress from succeeding, which is what you're experiencing. And then there's stress from failing, which part of your story is you've experienced both, right? Or the struggle, right? And so when you are experiencing the stress from succeeding, like that's to your point, that's when it's time to smash the accelerator to the ground and go, right? Like that's not the time to be like, dang, why am I traveling so much? That's the time to be like, this is what I signed up for, so let's go.
100%, man. You got to pick your hard, Keith. You got to pick your hard. Like life is hard in a lot of different ways, and I'd rather it be hard this way. And my family's on board too, right? I mean, because you've got to have everybody online. We have this thing in my family. We don't look for balance in life. We look for rhythm. And here's what rhythm and balance the difference is. Balance is when you're trying to find something that's 50-50, right? And that's hard for me to do. I mean, if you're on the road that many days a month, you're not going to find balance at home. But you can find rhythm. And here's what the rhythm is. Rhythm is that whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm at, I'm full speed. I'm focused on that at the time. And then when I bounce into something else, say it's family life, say I'm home 36 hours for a weekend, I'm fully there. I'm present.
You're locked in.
I put my phone up. I'm locked in. I'm there. I'm present. And that's the rhythm. You just go back and forth, and everybody gets on board with the rhythm. But there's rules you've got to adhere to in the rhythm, right? You can't say, hey, the rhythm is I'm going to be at home, but I'm going to work on my business stuff, and I'll be on the phone posting on social media. No, man, you got to obey the rules.
Yeah.
But that comes from discipline, right?
But and someone invites you to, I don't know, the national championship game or whatever, and you maybe got to say no, right? Because the rhythm dictates that, no, I haven't been home in a while, and these 36 hours are sacrosanct, right?
Great example. Like this has happened to me, not with the national championship game. Well, yeah, you know what? A Super Bowl. So,
same.
But with these coaches, I speak to all these sports teams all over America, college and pro sports teams. And these coaches become my friends. Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, all those guys. They have games going on every Saturday, right? I get invited to all these games to sit on the sideline and hang out at the games. But I pass on them, man. I don't go to many college football games because on the weekends I'm with my family. That's the rhythm that I'm in.
Hey, Damon, so just for 2 minutes, for which I would be surprised if people don't know who you are at this point, but just for the people that have been living under a rock, give like a real quick, just 2-minute background. I know there's a long story there, but just kind of a precursor of that. And we'll get into a lot of questions about sort of how you got to be this world famous author and keynote speaker. If you can just do a speed round on that real fast.
Yeah, we'll go with May 18th, 2009. Very important date because on May 18th, 2009, a jury in Dallas sentenced me to life in prison, 65 years, or as they say in prison terms, 6 dimes and a nickel, right? So the 65-year sentence they give me, the jury set through a trial about this guy that had it all, man. Division I starting quarterback by the time he was 20, worked in Congress, worked on Wall Street, but got hooked on meth. And when I became a meth addict, I became a serial burglar too. And I became the leader of a bunch of other meth addicts breaking into houses all over Dallas. They called the burglaries the Uptown Burglaries. They called me the Uptown Burglar. And the burglaries go on for about 3 years. But on May 18, 2009, I stand in front of that jury on that RICO case, and I'm the head of the organized crime ring. They sentenced me to life. Between the time when I'm getting my sentence and I go to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve my life sentence, I run into this old guy named Muhammad, and he shares with me the story of the coffee bean, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yep.
And with the story of that coffee bean and the application of that message, I was able to transform my life and the world around me inside of a maximum security level 5 prison. Here's what I know about stories, y'all. People love stories about the underdog journey. People love stories about sports, and people really love true crime and prison stories. This story has all of them, man. I've got it all. In fact, USA Today calls it the modern day Shawshank Redemption. And that's because Shawshank is about hope. Andy brought hope into Shawshank Prison. Yeah. And that's what my life is about right now. In 2015, the parole board lets me go. They let me go on parole. Now, it doesn't mean I'm free. I'm not a free man because I'm on parole until the year 2073. So I've got a little bit more time. I got a little more supervision. But every day since I got out in 2015, I wake up with this gigantic smile on my face because my feet don't hit the cold concrete floor of a prison cell. I've got a lot of perspective of what a bad day looks like. And I've been able over the last 10 years, because we're recording in 2025, I've been able in the last 10 years to apply that perspective to transform my life outside of prison in this pot of boiling water and take this message of hope, perseverance, finding the opportunity in adversity. Real important to be able to find the opportunity in adversity because that's coming at you whether you like it or not. There's 2 kinds of adversity. The kind you find yourself in because life is hard, and the kind you find yourself in because of the choices that you make, the kind you put yourself in. This story has both of those elements of adversity. But when I go around speaking, I go around sharing the story, the message of the coffee bean, but I actually have a part in the presentation towards the end where I apply the principles. How did I do it? Here's how I did it. Here's how you could do it too. And you're kind of sitting in front of you with this story of this guy that overcame this serious adversity, right? Most people will never go inside of a max security prison. It'll never happen.
I don't want to.
No, most people will never.
Not on my bucket list.
Yeah,
James, you really don't want to.
We were having the conversation about the anorexic guy beforehand. That would no.
I'm not going to touch that comment specifically, but I am going to laugh at it, James. I am going to laugh at it. But that's the thing. Most people will never go to prison. Most people will never have a SWAT team come into their living room and take them down. But here's what I say. The SWAT teams of life, they come for us in different ways. A SWAT team is a divorce. It's a bankruptcy. It's a failed marriage. It's a lost job. It's something happened to one of your kids, a kid dying, a pet dying. SWAT teams are adversity, and it's how you look at the adversity. I've got this mindset that I've been able to transfer to a lot of people of saying, hey, life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you. And that's not a quote from me. That's from my friend named Ed Milet. He told me that. He said, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And your life is an example of that, Damon.
I love it. And we want to go deep into this because we've got tons of questions. Keith, you want to kick us off on the rapid fire?
We'll do the rapid fire
because I want to. These are really curious about.
How are we doing the 2-minute version though, James? Was that
you
pretty
did
good?
Great.
Not bad. Like you and like a true pro, you worked in some teases about what we're going to talk about later. Like you're good at this. You're good at this. All right. We always ask every guest these questions, rapid fire. I'm a pretty voracious reader. So favorite book or podcast ever this year, lately, and why?
My favorite podcast this year lately. Okay.
Or book.
So Jefferson Fisher, a good friend of mine, he just wrote a book called The Next Conversation. And Jefferson's a local guy in Texas. It's literally just came out last week. It's one of the best selling books in the world right now. I think it's number 4 on Amazon currently. That was a great book. I devoured that over the past weekend. A podcast I go to a lot. Look, I like Rogan, man. I love Rogan. Rogan has some great guests, man. I mean,
I love it.
I would love to be on Rogan. Rogan would be a good place to tell this story, right?
Yeah,
to be able to just run out for about 3.5 hours, everything that goes on. Yeah, taking back scene behind his prison. I mean, but Rogan's podcast, he has a lot of interesting guests on.
Huge. Yeah,
it's huge. It's massive. I like it because it's a conversation style format. But I would say Jefferson's book, Rogan. But, my favorite book of all time, if I can insert this, I got it right here in my podcast studio. It's this book.
Oh, The Count of
Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
I read this when I was sitting in a prison cell. And if you know the story of The Count of Monte Cristo, you think about it, man. This guy was sitting in a prison cell. A crime he didn't commit, but he gets out. And to me, it was the ultimate book about redemption. It was the ultimate book about revenge, and it was the ultimate book about forgiveness, right? Because he got all the revenge he wanted. It took him 36 years of his life to fully implement everything that happened, from the bad stuff that happened to him to when he got the fortune to when he got all the revenge, and he was empty. He was bankrupt, morally bankrupt. Yeah. And that's the part of my story I think that really applies to people is, in my life, I've served time in a maximum security prison. After I got out, I became a professor at the University of Houston teaching a class called Prisons in America. So I'm the professor of prisons, and I'm the guy that's been in prison. And I can tell you, without a doubt, I meet more people out here in the free world that are locked up than I ever did when I served time in a real prison, because more people are in prison by their thoughts, by their things, and by their prejudices than by steel bars and barbed wire and concrete combined.
Yeah.
Well, there's the whole quote for the pod right there.
Yeah. Is The Count of Monte Cristo like required reading in prison? Everybody reads it, right?
Well, yeah, a guy gave it to me. I'm sitting there. So the first book I got handed was by my cellmate, this little guy named Carlos. So I call him Carlos. It's not his real name. But Carlos put him in the change agent. My next book that's coming out, we'll talk about that. Carlos is in there too. So, but Carlos, my first cellmate, the first book he hands me, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. He said, you got to read this book. He said, you don't want to just survive this place. You want to thrive in this place. You got to read what Frankl says about prison. The next book he gave me was The Count of Monte Cristo. So I'm like, bam, with great reading, man. And
like how,
go ahead.
We'll get to the second question, but like how, I don't know about lucky or blessed or whatever, but like that's your first cellmate, right? That guy, not some other guy trying to take you some other direction, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. And I don't want to get too much into the religion side of things because we got people of all kinds of different faiths.
No, that's cool.
But,
this is your conversation. But
I work a program recovery, and in the program recovery, in the 12 steps, we believe you can pick your higher power, whatever it is. So let's just say, when I say God, I'm talking about Christ because I'm a Christian. But you can apply whatever you want to this. But I believe God puts people in your path, the messengers, right? And the messengers can come to you from anywhere. The messengers don't always look like you. They don't come from the same background as you. They don't have the same life experience as you, but that's the catch, right? They've got information that you can use. And if you're receptive to the messengers, you get all the messages. But here's what happens sometimes. We become unreceptive to the messengers, right?
Yeah.
We become prejudiced. We become biased. We say, hey, you're not the same race. You're not the same gender. You're not the same ethnicity, same religion. You don't believe the same politics I believe in. Your opinions are too different than mine. And you shut yourself down.
Or another introspective one is you think you know it all already. There's nothing left to learn, right? Like you can turn it off that way too.
That's a dangerous mindset.
Yeah.
That's a good way to be stuck in ignorance.
Yeah. All right, we're all the way to our non-rapid fire question number 2, so we can get to the story, which everyone's going to want to hear. James, hit him with number 2.
You could have lunch with one person, current or historical. Who would it be and why? You get to pick one.
Okay, this is going to sound weird, but I listen to Rogan, so you kind of know where my mindset is probably. I want to meet with the person that planned out and designs the pyramids. I just want to know who did these things, because they just had this LiDAR thing go on where they get underground and they've got these cylindrical tubes going on. And look, man, human beings, we can't make a pyramid today. We can't even do it. We don't have the ability to make a real pyramid. We can't do it. There's stones.
David, you're my favorite. You're my favorite.
There are stones in this town called Babak, Lebanon. These stones are 2.8 million pounds apiece, and they're stacked on top of each other. They've been there. Alexander the Great talked about these in 330 BC, right? Yeah. They've been there for thousands of years. Who put those stones there? The quarry is about 1.5 miles away. How did you get a stone? And if you talk to people, historians, right? Historians, they'll say, well, they rolled them on logs. You can't roll a 2.5 million. And if you rolled it, how did you stack it after that? Right. So this is the stuff I want to find out. I want to meet those people, because I believe that there was a time on Earth when there was a technology far greater than what we have right now. And I don't necessarily believe that it came from this planet. And I'm okay with that. I just want to know who planned that stuff.
That's the greatest answer. Whoever built the pyramids, I want to meet.
That's a legit answer.
Haven't had that one. We've had everything from. Yeah, we've had everything from Jesus to whatever, which is totally great. But that's definitely the one that's the most. That is the most interesting answer we've had. All right, let's.
And you see, these are good, James, because if anybody listens to Rogan and they know Rogan, they can say, "You got to get this guy on your show."
Well, and you reminded me of the Rogan show where he had those two really famous geologists and archaeologists on, where they were talking about how the asteroid hit the polar ice cap and caused a massive tsunami, which actually formed portions of the plane. It was just really fascinating. So,
all right, we'll find that episode and link to it in the show notes.
Well, Damon and I are geeking out on a Rogan episode right now.
Go nuts.
Yeah.
Go nuts.
Just a couple of guys having fun, man. And that's what that's what guys want to do, man.
Absolutely. All right. Let's dive let's dive into your story, Damon. You hinted at it a little bit. I think for context, if you could go a little further back, you went from football star to convict to motivational speaker. Now that's a dramatic oversimplification of your life story. So if you could color in now, what was just that journey, right? Of having so much success early in life, then not having success, and then finding maybe more than you ever could have found through the struggle. Just share that with us. Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys that, when I find something I really get involved in, I go in full speed. I'm very type A, as you can probably feel through the camera right now. And high school football was the first thing for me like that. I grew up in Texas. I grew up under the Friday Night Lights, guys. I mean, this is like the stuff you see on TV, 1/100th of what it's like in real life when you grow up under those lights.
My mom, dad, and sister live in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't grow up there. I grew up in California, but I've been there a lot. And
I know Dallas well.
If you haven't experienced it, I mean, I went to high school football games that the stadium was much nicer than the college that I went to.
Yeah.
And it was a high school football stadium. I mean, it's wild.
They can get bond issues passed in Texas for $250 million bond to build a new stadium.
Yeah.
This is high school. This is like the taxpayers are like, new stadium, $250 million.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Wow.
But, the culture in Texas is very much about a football culture. And I was the man. I was a star quarterback for 3 years in high school, scholarship to play football at the University of North Texas, Division I college football. But my career ended against Texas A&M in 1996. I was 20 years old. My career is over. My identity was gone, too, because my identity was a football player. And that's when I get into drugs. But I'm a pretty functional addict. And then in 2004, when I'm a broker, I get hooked on meth for the first time. Another broker introduced me to meth, sees me sleeping at work, gives me my first hit of meth, and I'm instantly hooked, just like that. And here's the definition of addiction. Addicts give up their goals to meet their behaviors. That's the definition of addiction. When you give up goals to meet a behavior, you're an addict. And you don't have to be addicted to drugs or alcohol to be an addict. You can be addicted to food, money, clothing, shopping, sex, pornography, the internet, Instagram, social media, whatever it is. But I gave away everything. My job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. In 18 months, I go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets. And that's when I become a criminal. Breaking into cars, breaking into storage units, and I start breaking into houses. And listen, I don't take this lightly, this part of the story, because my victims, the people I stole from, I didn't just steal their property. I stole
Right.
their sense of security. And that's a very big thing. I can't fix what I did to them. I can't even apologize to them, guys. The state of Texas has a law. It's a felony to apologize to the victim of your crimes. They send you back to prison.
Huh.
So in 2008, the Dallas SWAT team takes me down, and you know how it ends. A year later, I go to trial, and the jury gives me 65 years, 6 dimes and a nickel, life. And my mom has a conversation with me right after trial, and she's telling me, you can't join one of the gangs, you can't get any tattoos, you can't come back as someone we don't recognize. She said, come back as the man we raised, or don't come back at all. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but that's when I meet this first messenger on the road, Muhammad, in Dallas County Jail, this old black Muslim guy. He's older, I'm younger. He's black, I'm white. He's Muslim, I'm Christian. We don't have a lot in common, but we have the shared same human misery going on, and I'm receptive to the messenger. He says, here's how you're going to turn it around. He said, imagine prison is a pot of boiling water. You're going to get 3 choices in the pot of boiling water. Be like a carrot that becomes softened by the boiling water, an egg that becomes hardened by the boiling water, or a coffee bean which changes the pot of boiling water into a pot of coffee. He said the coffee bean's the change agent. It's the only thing that can change the water. The power is inside the coffee bean to change the water around the coffee bean. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to have to be. You're going to have to be a change agent in there. You got to change the prison around you. And I remember thinking the first time I heard that, man, I can do this. What it did is it empowered me. It put the power back inside me. And if the power's inside me, it's not the world around me, right? The criminal justice system, the guards, the other inmates. And that's like when we're talking, let's say we're talking to a crowd of people in real estate, right? The power's not in the market, what's going on around you out there. It's not in the mindset of these home buyers that say right now, I'd rather just rent than buy a home. You know, you don't control all that, but you control what you think, what you say, what you feel, what you do. That's what being a coffee bean is about. And it's about putting your foot on the gas when you understand that and getting in your lane. And that's what I did, guys. Listen, prison was the hardest thing I've ever been through. From the minute I walked to the door, I was fighting for my life. Muhammad told me, it's all about race in there. You're going to fight the white gangs first because you're white. They're going to try to bring you in. If you don't give in to them, you'll fight the black gangs. The white gangs send the black gangs. If you survive that, you earn the right to walk alone. That right to walk alone took about 2 months. Constant fighting. I probably got in 3 dozen fights in the first 2 months, and I'm losing. Y'all, I'm losing 75% of these fights. Man, I'm getting my butt kicked all over prison. But do you know what I'm winning? I'm winning the fights.
Respect. Yeah.
Yes, because I've shown up to the fight. Muhammad told me, he said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. One of the biggest lessons in life, y'all. And this is someone that this can be anything aspect of life, right? Getting up every day is a win. Putting your feet on the floor, doing it all over again, that's a victory. In sales, people that work in sales, man, you're going to get a lot of no's, but you got to keep working towards the yes. You got to live for the yes, right? And that's what we're always doing. When I'm fighting for my life in the first two months, I'm just fighting to get to the other side of yes. I want to be able to be accepted inside that prison. And when that finally happens, and I don't have to establish myself with a gang because I've established myself as an independent, I get to work on myself. And I start building these rules about being a coffee bean. And, you know, rules like using your positive body language everywhere you go. Your body language is powerful, man. You can either infect the room with negative body language or affect a room with positive body language. And this is important whenever you're dealing with, you know, creating relationships, customers across from you, people you want to build a bridge with. Your body language changes everything, man, because, you know, it's especially in this industry, you're going to sit across from people that have a negative taste in their mouth about you and what you do. They've never met you, but they've dealt with someone else that does what you do. Maybe they once wore their logo that you wore and they're gone now. But you've got to build a relationship sometimes from a place of less than zero. I know a thing or two about that. I'm an ex-con. You know how hard it was to get to your room that day to speak to your audience? Yeah, man, because when I got out of prison, people weren't just dying to have an ex-con come talk to their people.
No.
How many ex-cons that came before me have burned the bridge to the ground? How many people that have gone before you have burned that bridge to the ground? But you can create these bridges with your body language. That's the first thing that's your entry in. Another rule about being a coffee bean is work it out on yourself every day in 3 different areas: spiritually, mentally, physically, you know, mind, body, soul. This is very important. And I run into people all the time. They say, man, you were in prison. You had all this time on your hands. I don't have time on my hands. Not true. Look at your screen time report. I was watching Rogan the other day. There was a guy on there, Christopher Williamson, I think was his name. They were talking about people's screen time averages going up from 5 hours to 6 hours a day now.
Jeez.
Some people don't get 6 hours of sleep. 6 hours of screen time? Think about that.
Yeah.
And time. You can take this from a guy that's done some time. It's the most precious resource you have, because once it's gone for good. And all the money in the world can't buy one more second of that stuff they're selling. They don't sell time. So when you learn to apply the things in life that you can actually impact, what you think, what you say, what you feel, what you do in that stream of time, your life takes off because now you're having actual change going on in your life. Another rule about being a coffee bean, it's servant leadership. Servant leadership is helping other people reach their goals in life, helping to raise other people up to a different station in life. Because I believe that when we help other people grow, we grow too. And, and finally, you just can't let your past determine your future. Because your past is your lesson, the present today is a gift, and the future is your motivation. And in my presentation, y'all, I'm not just talking about this life inside of a prison. I'm talking about life after prison. Like, how did this guy go on to become one of the most sought after speakers in America? And he was just sitting in a prison cell serving life 10 years ago. But it's because I've changed my mindset. Every day, I'm telling you, I have a get to mindset. I get to do what I do every day. I get to wake up. I get to be a free person. It's weird, too, because I had to lose everything to gain this. But I'm hoping I can go out and transfer that to people.
I got a couple questions, follow-up
Go for
questions
it, brother.
off what you said. One is, I'm no mathematician, but just back of the envelope, sounds like for the first 2 months you were getting in a fight like every 2 or 3 days.
Every other day, pretty much.
Every other day.
Yeah. Some days you had more than one fight, but I mean, it was rare that you had more than one fight a day.
So I'm sure in some quiet moments you considered not going through that to be an independent, or maybe you did, never sort of thought about like, this is too hard. I'll just go that other route, even though I promised my mom I wouldn't. How did you reground yourself in those moments of where, I don't want to call it weakness, because I think that's a little too pedantic for the people who do choose that. I assume a vast majority of folks who are in prison choose that route because it's easier.
The easiest path.
Yeah. So when you felt those moments of, this is too hard, how did you push through that?
So here's what happened. It was on a Friday, right around 6 weeks in prison. I get jumped. And I get my butt beat bad, man. And I'm fighting the black inks at this point. I get jumped, man, on a Friday afternoon. And I made a decision that was it. I was going to kill myself. So the next day I woke up, had this plan all laid out. I'm going to go to church one last time, and then I'm going to come back to my cell, and I'm going to hang myself off my cellmate's top bunk whenever he goes to recreation that afternoon. So I'm in this church service. There's about 200 inmates in there. It's called the Chapel of Hope. And I get a tap on my shoulder. And it's this volunteer chaplain lady named Ms. D. Doucette. So Ms. D comes up. She taps me on the shoulder. She said, Mr. West, I need to talk to you in my office. So I follow Ms. D to her office. She sits me down on the couch, and she says, what's wrong, Mr. West? I can see that something's bothering you today. And I'm like shocked because, I'm in a church service with 200 men serving life. Something's bothering everybody, right? I mean, this is intense personal struggles going on, man. Right. This is the most hopeless church service you can go to.
Ever, yeah.
But she calls me out. She says, hey, what's wrong with you today? So I unload on her, man. I start crying. And I said, Miss D, look, I just can't do this anymore. I can't take it. It'd be easier for my parents to visit a gravesite than for them to have to come see me and see me in the shape. And it'd be easier for me to just let go. Yeah. She was just real calm. She said, you can't give up on God. And the minute she mentioned God, I got so angry, Miss D. I'm like, what do you mean, God? How could God create a place so wicked and evil and sinister as this prison? And she was just real calm. She said, Mr. West, you're not the first person to get mad at God. She said, the Bible's full of people that got angry with God, but they all seem to come back to God when they learn the secret to faith. And I'm like, Miss D, what's the secret to faith then? And she shared this with me, and this changed my perspective. She said, if you're going to pray, don't worry. And if you're going to worry, don't pray. She said, you can't do his job and your job. She said, you're either going to drive the car or you're going to let him drive the car. But the last time you drove the car, you parked it in the maximum security prison. So choose who gets the keys and choose wisely. Get out of my office. Man, that was like a reset 6 weeks in. Yeah. So Monday morning, I wake up and I'm like, all right. I realize that there's one thing I left on the table I haven't used, and my athletic ability, right? God blessed me to be a tremendous athlete, guys. I was a Division I starting quarterback at 20. I'm a baller. But the rec yard where you play sports, it's the most intimidating place I've ever seen because it was most segregated. It's segregated. Everything is segregated by the color of your skin. Every sport was. Like, sand volleyball for the whites and Hispanics. Handball, all the races play handball, but if you want to play doubles in handball, your doubles partner has to be the same race. The weight stack. You want to work out with somebody, your partner, your spotter, same race as you. The chow hall. You eat your meals at tables with people that look like you. That's the way all the races wanted it. Race runs everything in prison. That's what Muhammad told me. So 6 weeks in, I go out to the rec yard that Monday morning. I pass up all of those sports I just told you about, and I went straight to the basketball court. Who do you think runs the basketball court? The blacks, the brothers, they run it, right? So I go out there that Monday morning, get myself in a game of basketball, and y'all, it's the most brutal basketball I've ever played. It's not 5-on-5, it's 9-on-1. But I'm in a position right now where my back is against the wall and I'm fighting anyway. So I get myself to a desperate enough place and I'm willing to go out and try something different, do something that I've never done to get what I want. That's what life is about. You have to be willing to do something you've never done before. And every day after I get done playing basketball, I tell those guys out there, I'll be back tomorrow. And I tell myself, more importantly, you're coming back tomorrow, Damon. And when I showed up the next day, I kept the promise I made to myself. That is how you build confidence in life. You keep the promises you make to yourself. Start off with small promises too. Don't make something big and grand. Create this habit of making those promises and keeping those promises. After a week of playing basketball, the violence was finally over and the threat to my physical safety was gone because those guys accepted me in there. They said, man, you took everything we had. You gave it back when you could. You don't have to worry about the blacks the rest of the time you're here. So I earned that right to exist. But the thing about it is, what else I learned is that I learned two things about adversity. I learned that adversity is never as bad as you think it's going to be, and you are always capable of way more than you think you are, because sometimes, a lot of times, we allow overthinking to get in the way of overcoming. And those are just some of the things I picked up inside of a maximum security prison. And like I said, most people will never go inside of a physical prison, but I think most people have been inside of a mental prison, and I can help you with that.
Man, I tell you, listening to this story, it gives you this perspective of everybody in life, as you are aware, you do this professionally, has their version of challenges. But hearing your story, it gives you this, there's always somebody who's got it harder or has had a different story. Like you have this perspectives where you look at things and you're like, God, why is this happening to me? And then if you really sit back, you're like, man, this actually isn't as bad as what I've seen a lot of other people go through. What's a story? This is totally just, you're making me think of this. Like, what's one of the most impactful stories you've had where you've helped someone? Like, what's one that stuck out from you where you've done a keynote or you've spoken somewhere and somebody came up to you and just shared their life? Like, what's one of the things where you realized after you've been sharing this message that it changed you because you're affecting someone else?
So it wasn't a keynote, but it was, so one of the biggest things that was on my mind and one of the biggest motivators for me when I got out of prison was finding my friend Muhammad, right? The guy that told me the story of the coffee bean. And it's like, I couldn't find him because Muhammad wasn't his real name. It's his Muslim name. Kind of like Cassius Clay becomes Muhammad Ali. People give it the real name, take on a Muslim name. And so I'm searching the earth for this guy, but I can't find him. And then I get a letter from a person in prison, 7 years out of prison, about 3 years ago. So I get this letter. The letter says, find James Lynn Baker and you find Muhammad. So I go to Dallas and I get with a private investigator. We find James Lynn Baker, but we find out that he's dead. And he is Muhammad. But we find out he's dead. He died of an opiate overdose on May 9th, 2017 in Dallas. So I go out and I find his family. A couple of reasons. One is I believe integrity is who you are when no one's watching you. I believe integrity is when you do the right thing, when you know you can get away with the wrong. I don't have to go find his family at this point. I can just keep on telling my story, but I wanted to honor my friend. But more importantly, I wanted to tell his family what he did in my life, the impact he had in my life. And he's got 3 living sisters, Visha, Von Sil, and Vanessa Baker. I told him the story about the time I met their brother and the mess she gave me. And I said, let's start a scholarship in his name. Every year I'll fund the scholarship. I'll put $10,000 into a trust. And every year your family picks the winner of that scholarship. So every year one little boy or one little girl that grows up in his old neighborhood, they get out. They get a better chance at life through an education because these 2 guys met up in county jail. Now, here's what I learned. Here's the big aha moment for me. Whenever I met his family, the first thing the family told me was like, hey, Damon, that's great. The guy you're talking about you met in jail, way different from the guy that we lived with. Because the guy we lived with would get strung out on drugs. He'd steal from us. He'd go back to prison. He'd get out of prison. He'd come back. He'd burn the bridge to the ground. It's just a horrible mess of rinse and repeat when you're living with an addict, right, in their addiction. And they're like, that's not the guy we knew. But you met him when he was sober inside of a county jail where he couldn't get high. And I'm like, listen, work with me on this because I believe we can change the way the world sees your brother because the impact he had in my life, and I think his impact changes. And man, his sisters now, man, they sit ramrod straight when they talk about their brother. They're so proud of their brother now, right? Their brother's the coffee bean guy, the guy that gave them the message that's changed the world. And I found out that I could change the way a family sees their loved one even after death with that message. But here's what I found out. He didn't just give me the coffee bean message so I could change my life and go out and become a redeemed man. Because, guys, by every metric, I'm a redeemed man. I'm sober. I'm a husband. I'm a stepfather. I'm an entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur. One of the most in-demand speakers in America, best-selling author, college professor, philanthropist, whatever you tag you want to put on success, I've done it. But here's what I found out. He didn't give me that message so that I could redeem myself only. He gave me that message so I could come back and redeem him. Because everybody deserves redemption. And that was what I found out that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, when I was on this search to find this guy, I knew I was on the right path when I found out his backstory and I saw how we changed the way the world sees him now.
Yeah. You've briefly in when you were talking about your background, mentioned the coffee bean story and the difference between soft and hard. And can you reframe it and linger there a little longer just so all the listeners can like sort of fully internalize this coffee bean concept?
Yeah. So when he's explaining the story of the coffee bean to me, he's walking me through it, and he does it more like a teacher, more like someone that's like, he's asking me questions. He said, if I put a carrot in the pot of boiling water, he asked me what happens to the carrot. I'm like, it's going to turn soft. He said, that's right. It goes in hard, but becomes softened. That's what the water does to the carrot. It changes the physical structure of it, makes it soft. Again, he asked me the question with the egg, and I'm like, the egg will turn hard, like a hard-boiled egg. He said, that's right. He said, the egg has a shell that protects it physically. But inside that shell, that soft liquid core, the yolk, the heart becomes hard. He said, now, if your heart becomes hardened, you become incapable of giving or receiving love. And he said, if you're incapable of giving or receiving love in the world you're going into, you don't come back as someone your parents recognize. Your eggshell has swastikas all over it. And then he asked me the question. He said, what about the coffee bean? What happened to the coffee bean in the boiling water? And y'all, I didn't have an answer for him on that one. Like literally when he's telling me the first time, I don't know what the coffee bean does. I'm not even like on the same level with this dude. And that's when this guy that looks nothing like me, that's when this guy that doesn't come from the same America that I come from, the guy that doesn't believe the same things I believe in, shares with me one of the most important and transformational messages I've ever heard in my life. Comes back full circle to what we talked about, right? If you close yourself off to other people because of their differences, you miss some of the messengers in life and some of the biggest messages. And that's a good example about why you have to be receptive to everybody.
I think the beauty of it is the simplicity of it, right? And it sort of sneaks up on you, right? Like it can make you soft and mushy, it can make you hard, or you can change the water. And there's that, the elegance in that simple story resonates deeply with anyone who hears it. So I think
it's life, man.
Yeah.
Like life will make you hard or soft and at different moments and points in time. When you wrote the book and then like how many, I don't know what the right question is, but how big has the book become since you've written it? And when did you write it, by the way, just for context?
Great question. So here's the deal. When I got out of prison, I knew I was sitting in this incredible mess with a great story, right? But the problem was there weren't a lot of places for me to share that story. And I found out really quickly, you cannot go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to the kids.
No.
They're like, come on in. Yeah, they're like, come on in. Yeah, this is great. We'd love
talk to our kids.
Yeah.
Especially in Texas.
So, man. So everybody's armed in Texas, right?
I
didn't have a lot of places to speak when I first got out. But what I had in my parents' spare bedroom where I lived was a mirror in there. I lived in my parents' spare bedroom the first 2 years I was out of prison. Now, the guys, think about this. I'm 40 years old. I just got out of prison. I'm on parole the rest of my life. I got a job making just above minimum wage, and I live in my parents' spare bedroom.
Yeah,
not a good dating profile, right?
I was going to say, your dating profile was not getting clicked on. Yeah.
Swipe, whatever way swipe to throw that one away, right? So every night for 2 years, I practiced my presentation in front of that mirror. I got in my reps. Because anything you want to be good at in life, you got to practice that in life. You got to get in your reps, right? There's no such thing as an overnight success. It does not exist. There I am getting my reps in. And I'm waiting for the right opportunity. And I believe the right opportunity is going to come from the world of college football because I played Division I college football. But the problem is it's been 20 years to take a snap. These coaches don't know me. I don't know them.
Right.
January 11th, 2017, a buddy of mine from Houston calls me. Houston's 90 miles away from Beaumont where I live. He calls me up. He says, Damon, get to Houston right. He works in the media. He says, it's the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award. They got the 8 best coaches in the country in this room right now. I got an extra press pass. I'll sneak you in. So, man, I drive the 90 miles from Beaumont to Houston. He sneaks me in the back door, Toyota Center, hands me a press pass. And y'all, I run through this room, and I'm shaking every coach's hand. And I'm giving them my pitch of why they should bring me in to talk to their team. And every coach I meet that night slams the door in my face. They all say no, right? In 1 hour, I got 7 no's from 8 coaches. That's a no every 8 minutes. So I'm in the corner at Toyota Center, y'all. I'm licking my wounds. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And the voice in my head is telling me, go home. You don't belong in this room. The voice in my head is calling me things like an imposter. And I know a lot of people listen to this. You know what that imposter voice sounds like. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you something I quit doing a long time ago. Listening to myself. And you shouldn't listen to yourself either because the voice in your head could be fear talking to you. You don't want to listen to fear because fear is a liar. So instead of listening to myself, I talk to myself. And that's what I'm doing that night. I'm telling myself, Damon, no. That last coach is going to tell you no to your face before you go. You came to talk to 8 coaches. You're talking to 8 of them. He's going to tell you no. And the last coach, hardest guy to get to in the room. His team had just beat Alabama 2 nights before for the national championship. Everybody is in line to talk to this guy. But I remind myself of a time that I succeeded. And that's something we all have the power to do, but we forget to do sometimes. You got to celebrate the wins and remind yourself of the time when you won, you know? I'm telling myself, Damon, you survived prison. This isn't prison, man. It's not going to hurt like that. So I stalked Dabo Swinney around that room, the head coach of Clemson. And, man, I look like a crazy
Security's
person,
following you around.
Security's looking at me. Dabo's crew's looking at me. But I finally get in front of Dabo, and I give him my pitch, and I come up for air. And Dabo looks frightened. He's like, man, you got a card on you? And I'm like, oh. Man,
Anything to end the conversation,
man,
right?
I've seen that look before all night, man. So I gave him my card. He took it. He said, I'll check you out. He was gone. Well, that was a no. But I felt good about that no, guys, because I left it all on the field. One of the biggest lessons I learned from sports or sales, man. You knock on every door, you make every call. You don't work by a clock when you work for sales. Or Muhammad, you don't have to win all your fights. You got to fight all your fights. I fought my fights. I went home that night and slept like a baby. Just like prison when I lost my fights. I showed up. 4 months later, I get an email out of the blue. It's the director of football operations at Clemson, a guy named Mike Dewey. And Mike Dewey's email said this. Hey, Damon, Coach Swinney met you at the award show in Houston. He'd love to have you come talk to the team. Do you have August 1st open? I'm like, brother, I got every first open, man. You can pick whichever one you want.
I got every August open. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I got everything. So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, defending national champions of college football. And when I get done on presentation night, Dabo is in my face, man. Dabo's in the team room, and he is high energy, man. Dabo was that's the most amazing story I've ever heard, Damon. He said, have you been to Alabama to talk to their football team? And I'm like, no. I've been to Clemson, but I hadn't been to Alabama. He said, we'll see.
I've been in Texas for a while.
Yeah. I haven't even been to the local high school.
Yeah, did you hear my story? I've been in prison for like most nights. Yeah. So, but he said, we'll see about that. He said, I just texted Nick Saban from the back of the room. The next day when my flight lands in Houston for my trip to Clemson, I turn my phone on. There's a voicemail and a text message from the director of football operations at University of Alabama, the Whale. Here's what the message said. Hey, Damon, Dabo called Coach Saban last night. Coach Saban can't wait to hear your story. He says, how does August 21st, 7:30 p.m. work for your calendar? And, man, I laughed out loud because I don't even have a calendar, man. I don't Just like that, y'all. Dabo Swinney kicks open the biggest door to college football, and Dabo didn't stop there. Dabo becomes the client that turned the whole Rolodex over to me. Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day. You just need one, man. Yeah. And now they're all calling my phone, and now the dream is real. But the biggest event hadn't happened yet, James, and here's the answer to your story. I hadn't met the second servant leader that I was supposed to meet in life. I believe that if you do the right things and you serve other people, it comes back to you. And this is the law of it coming back. So August of 2018, 1 year after that presentation at Clemson, I get a phone call out of the blue. And on the other end of my phone is John Gordon, one of the biggest motivational speakers and authors in America, the Energy Bus guy. John said this, hey, Damon, Dabo brought me to the office to tell me your story after I spoke to Clemson today. He said, he told me the story of the coffee bean. He said, the world needs a coffee bean message. Let's write a book. We'll call it The Coffee Bean and share this mission with the world. In the summer of 2019, 10 years after I heard that story from Muhammad in a jail cell in Dallas County Jail, the book, The Coffee Bean, comes out. James, it took the world by storm. The whole planet, man.
Went crazy, right?
Went crazy. It started off in America first, right? 4 to 6 weeks, top of every bestseller list. Gets a global publishing deal. Global publishing deals are rare. That's when your book goes out in every language in the world. It starts popping up in Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, French, Italian, German. And in 2020, a global pandemic hits. The entire world becomes this pot of boiling water, and the entire world is searching for the right message. And that's when so many people found out about the coffee bean guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all, my life goes from this, and those of y'all are listening, I'm on a horizontal plane with my hand, to this, straight vertical.
Straight up.
And it's like, man, like we talked about at the very beginning, 20 to 25 days every month I've been on the road speaking, and that's been since 2021, guys. This is 4 years of momentum. But it all goes back to that one night in Houston, Texas, January 11th, 2017. That night I had 7 no's in the first hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you work in sales, you work in real estate, you know this feeling. You've been out there, you got your teeth kicked in, but you face that last door you got to knock on, the last call you got to make. And on the other end of that call was the biggest yes I've ever received in life. And that's what I tell people, man. You got to take your shots in life. You don't quit because life gets hard. You don't throw in the towel because life gets tough. Life is going to be hard. You're going to have difficult days. But you got to ask your question, because the only question you know the answer to in life is the one you don't ask. That answer is no every time because you never ask your question. I think Wayne Gretzky actually said it best, guys. I said, Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you do not take.
Yeah.
You got to take your shots in this life.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's awesome. Yep.
It's so true. Like it's all about, I see people quit, and it's like the best, and I know Keith will wrap this with the final question, but the point you're making, which just resonated for me, is most people would have walked away after the 4th no, even the 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah.
Most people might not have walked in the room.
Fair.
They'd have been too intimidated.
But you went to number 7 and you still kept at it. And that's the part where entrepreneurs, and I've met a lot of them, Keith and I both had interviewed some really amazing people on this show. And it's the fact that there was one shot left. You didn't give up. You did it anyway. You went in, and that happened to be that you made it that far. And it's that final little push that gave you that opportunity, and then the doors open. And 99.9% of people won't ever get to that point. They give up beforehand. It
reminds me of that quote. I'll probably butcher it, but basically, being an entrepreneur or to be successful, you have to move from failure to failure with the same enthusiasm that you had in your first failure.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really what it's about. It's you've got to maintain that vigor and rigor and excitement, even though it's failure after failure after failure after failure, and you got to keep that enthusiasm.
I call it the rookie mindset, Keith.
Yeah,
the
there
rookie
you go.
mindset.
Yeah.
Like, I still go out now and I attack life with the same tenacity that I did back in that room in 2017. And look, I still get told no a lot. There's places I want to go. People want to meet, and Joe Rogan, good example of that. James, I mean, I've tried everything to get on the show, and I don't even know if he's ever gotten my messages or anything if it's gotten through to him. But one day it will. One day you're going to hear me on that podcast, and you're like, man, he kept knocking on doors.
He follows this pod, so you're golden now. Totally making that up, my friend.
Yeah, all right, hey, Keith. I got one more question. You've got another book coming out, I think, called 6 Dimes and a Nickel. It's available for pre-order on Amazon. Boom. Here, for those of you listening, he's holding up the book, beautiful blue speckled cover. Yep. Tell us just quickly what this book is about. I'm going to go order it right after we're done, but and we'll put the link to the pre-order in the show notes. But what's this book about?
It's available on Amazon right now. That dot on the cover is the ink blot. And that's from rewriting your story. Every story starts off with putting the pen to paper, right? The book starts off with a question. 6 Dimes and a Nickel, first of all, is prison slang for 65 years. Life lessons to empower change. What this is all the life lessons I live by, all the principles in life. I am a storyteller. I have learned that people love storytellers. We learn from stories. We're entertained by stories. Every principle in this book is a chapter, and every chapter has a story behind the principle. Stories from my life. You're going to be taken on this roller coaster ride. You're going to go from sports. You're going to go from the underdog journey. You're going to go to the redemption story. You're going to go to prison. You're going to go to true crime. But everything has a principle. And it's the principle sometimes when you live by that good things happen. Sometimes you don't live by the principle and the bad things happen, right? Because principles can cut both ways. The book starts off with a question. It's a question I first heard from James Clear. And the question is this: if someone took control of your life tomorrow, what's the first thing they would change?
James Clear, the Atomic Habits guy?
Yeah, that James Clear, the Atomic Habits guy.
Yeah.
If someone took control of your life tomorrow, what's the first thing that would change? The reason why this question hit me hard is because I got to a point in life, because of the choices I made, someone did take control of my life. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice did.
Yep.
So I had to make the change, and I understand a lot about change. That's what this book is about. How to make that change, how to become the best version of you, how to rewrite your story too, because I've already done it.
Man,
I love it. I
can't think of a better way to end than to end on that. Damon, thank you for sharing your energy, your enthusiasm, of course, your story, and
keep inspiring everybody, man. Just don't. And I know sort of the journey of traveling like that and how hard that is on you and your family. Cause I just, I don't do 300, but probably 150 days a year. And
that's a lot, dude. That's a lot.
It is a lot, and it's hard, but also just people need inspiration. There's so much drama in the world. There's so much negativity on social media that, like, hearing these positive things we need more of it. So
I'm just going to ask you to be back on once a quarter so I can get a little energy, Joel, and get reminded.
And I got something great for y'all. So I know that next year your conference is in Dallas, and I got something for you. I got a second presentation. So,
okay. Oh, shoot. All right. I'll be reaching out. I'll be reaching out.
Yeah.
Damon, thank you again, man. You're truly an inspiration, and keep sharing your story, brother.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for the opportunity to share this with y'all today. I know you are very busy, so thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
We loved having you.
It's our honor. Yeah, it's our honor.
Appreciate it, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Guys. Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Trust us, it's the best thing any of us will accomplish today.